In this video, we're going to cover using the Smudge Tool as well as finishing out and blending designs in digital painting. So, when you're smudging something, what you always want to make sure is that you're working on the right layer, and then you want to have something that you're going to smudge. So, I am on a blank layer, and I am going to smudge this the color black. So I got my paintbrush, I'm going to set out a thing that I want to smudge. The Smudge tool is located down here. Sometimes it's attached to other tools, sometimes the blur tool or the sponge tool. But the Smudge tool looks like a finger, and it's meant for smudging things. Now, it comes in a variety of different ways. Up at the top, we can change the brush type and how it kind of brushes things, as well as how large it is. We can also change the strength of how much it pushes, as well as a variety of other features, just like any other brush. We can even come over to the properties and change how much it brushes and spaces, how much randomization happens, as well as how much we're pushing at a time. So if I come over to one like this brush that is very full and has a strength of 62, when I brush over my design, you can see it pulls everything and kind of stretches it. If I change it to a very spindly thing, you can see that it only pulls little things, only where those brushes are. I can also change a variety of other things, such as the scattering and the randomness of where those tips are. Be careful not to brush too much, otherwise sometimes it'll take the computer a while to catch up. So sometimes choosing one that does not have a full touch, bringing the strength down to like maybe, I'm going to say 11. You can see how I'm using this very soft one to very lightly fuzz this out. And going in different directions will kind of change it. Now there's a variety of other brushes that you can use. Right now we're on the regular brush settings, but in your preset library, sometimes there's things like the wet brush media. And you can kind of see that over on the side, it kind of says what they are. And this one is a paintbrush. This one is a smudge tool because we can see that it has a little finger thing. And this is actually one of my favorite ones that comes preloaded because it has some randomization and it kind of smudges everything around in a nice way. So you can see that this is blending really smoothly between multiple parts. And right now it's blending at 100%, so it's making really drastic changes. But I could bring the strength down a lot lower, we'll say like 15%. I can make it even larger, and you can see that this feels a lot smoother. So depending on the effect that you want and how much you want it to blend out, you want to affect the strength as well as what kind of head the brush has. And I can even play with this further. Right now it has that kind of more solid one, but I can come back to kind of these spread ones to get some different effects. You can see that this one has, again, is randomized, but it's given this kind of like somewhat sand texture, which I think is really nice. So if I'm working on this image here and I want to blend it, what I can do is I hop over to my blending tool. I think I enjoyed when it was on this one that's a little bit fuzzier, and I liked it when it was a soft strength. And when I turn on my reference picture, up at the top, we're going to try to get it a little bit more like that. So then I'm going to try to smudge it a little bit, going a little bit between the edges. Don't just smudge it all over. And be careful, you want to keep your sharp edges sharp. So the side of the apple is not blended at all because it's just one sharp edge. And while I'm blending this, I'm kind of blending in the same direction that the apple is moving. And it's being a little bit on the light side of it, so I bumped up the strength of how much it blends. Something else that can be very helpful, so I don't accidentally make marks that just erase my lines. If I come to my layer and I use command click on the layer, notice how it creates a selection of everything that exists there. So if I smudge outside, it doesn't actually go outside. But since we have like a more randomized brush, it's trying to smudge the outside in, which can get a little bit weird. So I'm going to speed up the video so you don't have to watch me fuss with these so much. But I'm going to softly blend these out with the smudge tool. So there you go. I've got a relatively cleanly smudged out apple. And you can see that it didn't just smudge over all of it. I kept some areas sharp, like the stem, because that needed to have the really rough texture. And I lost some detail over on the side where there's like a reflected area, as well as some of the little rougher patches of texture over the apple. So I'd have to go back in, add some new layers, and paint in some of those with a cleaner brush, and then maybe I'd go back in a lot closer and smudge and blend in some accurate areas. But it's always about a back and forth. So go forth and use your smudge brush as best as you can to make your images look realistic and beautiful.